Hey, what's going on, everyone? My name is Will Padilla. I am your host of the Sell That SaaS podcast. I am really excited to come to you guys with another episode today. This one is with a guy I found on Instagram Reels on the For You page.
That's right, baby.
And he lives in none other than Scottsdale, Arizona, where the studio is based, where the Sell That SaaS podcast runs and operates out of. We bring on Scottsdale content creators, Scottsdale business owners to have a conversation and understand a little bit more in their world about what they do and how it can help you as the audience, whether it be sales advice, content advice, or just overall life stories that you might find interesting. So right here, I want to introduce Nick El-Tawil. Found him on my For You page for Instagram. He was doing a selfie style video talking about how he was walking outside, and he said, but I don't mind it because Arizona doesn't have winters. You got nice sun all year round. So Nick, I'll pass it over to you and just do a quick intro yourself. Like, who is Nick El-Tawil for the audience that doesn't know you yet?
Well, first of all, thanks so much for having me on. This is great. My name's Nick El-Tawil. I was born and raised in Arizona. I'm actually a fourth generation Arizonan. My great grandpa built homes in Scottsdale back when it was first founded back in the 60s. And my grandma was born here. My mom lives here. My dad lives here. So I got my start in real estate in New York City. I went there for school, and then I stayed, got my real estate license. And New York is so different than Arizona. You do a lot of rental apartments for college kids. So I was doing that to get started in real estate, and I was pretty good at it. So I stuck with it, and I came back to Arizona after the pandemic, my home state, and I missed the sunshine, man. I really did. And all my family, all my friends, all my people. So I'm glad to be back.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. I really appreciate it. We've never had someone who's in the real estate realm on the podcast. And I think
there's so many of us. In Arizona, everyone is real estate.
That is actually the first thing I realized when I moved here. I said, why is everyone in real estate? And then I asked a couple of my mentors, and I said, well, what you don't understand, Will, is that most of Arizona's economy was built on real estate. So that's where it comes from. It's different than most other areas in the country. So that's why you run into a lot of real estate agents here, a lot of loan originators, loan people, like everything involved with housing. I know people, but I've actually never had someone on real estate, and that's, I don't know, maybe it's because I know people, but it just didn't land. But something about your video, I said, hey, I'm a content creator. A lot of our audience, they are content creators or somewhat aspiring to create their own LinkedIn content or Instagram content to help generate new leads, whether it be for the business that they own or the company they work for as a sales rep. And so I saw that and I was like, I just really want to have this guy on just to talk real estate and to talk who you are, content, and really just have a conversation. So, that you mentioned that you were in New York. Can you tell us about that experience? What were you doing out there? So you went to school.
Blast. Yeah.
Yeah, you went to school. Where'd you go to school?
Baruch College.
Okay, tell me about that.
It's 25th Street in Lex in Manhattan. So it's not quite NYU, but it's a great school.
Really?
And I actually met the guy. It's actually a big real estate school. So I met a friend who introduced me to another friend, and that was how I got started in real estate. I ended up selling, I think, 4 condos for their family over my time. So, I saw that was a good intro experience. I'm like, this could lead to something. And they told me to get my license and be a broker, which is a realtor. I didn't know that. I didn't know broker was realtor. They just use different words.
Sure.
So if he had said you should be a realtor, I don't think I would have listened to him. I would have been like, oh, a realtor? That's like what my mom's friend does. She sells 2 houses a year. I don't want to do that.
No.
He said broker. So I'm like, okay, I can be a broker.
Sounds better.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. Okay. So you were out there, you learned quickly that you could sell real estate, which is awesome. Tell me about the process of kind of moving up the ranks in real estate, because I'm sure you know this, and my own understanding, again, I told you before, I don't own property. I'm not really that into real estate. I do want to own land and property, ideally back in Missouri eventually. Right now, I just love Arizona for business purposes and just overall life enjoyment. But one thing I'm curious about, because you've been in this for a while, and a lot of real estate agents hit the scene, call them like pandemic real estate agents, right?
Oh, yeah.
They hit the scene in 2020, 2021 when you could pretty much just say I have a house for sale and it would sell within a day or two, right? You've been doing this a lot longer. From like where you started to where you're at today, like how have you been able to navigate all the different changes in the market as a new real estate agent?
So it's funny. I tell people that I think New York is a little easier than Arizona. It might be a lot easier, actually.
What would the reason be?
When you're looking up property owners, when I was in New York, you'd see, oh, this guy works at a bank or he's a lawyer, he's a tech or something. In Arizona, you look up property owners in Scottsdale, real estate developer, real estate agent, loan officer. So they're all real estate connected out here. So we have a very real estate centric economy. So it's very competitive out here. And, just having done this for as long as I have, I was actually considering getting into SaaS sales when I moved back. So I'm like, I don't want to have to build client base again and do this all over. So I was considering that. I ended up sticking with real estate just because, it's all I've done. And I actually told one of my mentors, Wendy Walker, she's at the agency in Scottsdale. I told her this and she just laughed at me. She's like, well, what the hell else would you do, Nick? And I was like, you're right, Wendy. I might as well just keep doing real estate. So shout out, Wendy. Thank you for that.
Yeah, man. Okay, so you're saying New York was actually a little easier.
It's just less competitive, which sounds so backwards, but it really was, because people in New York, they want to work in finance. They want to work at a bank. They want to work at JP Morgan, Goldman, or their attorneys, right? We're so real estate centered that it's very competitive here.
Yeah, and I was talking to you earlier about, before we got on, I was just on the phone. I said the really thing that I've been really interested in real estate, and I saw your video, and I think that's why I clicked, and that's why I think if I could look back, I'm like, wait, why did I really want to have you on? It's because I've been watching Selling Manhattan on Netflix. And I've always stayed away from a lot of these real estate shows because they're too reality TV, like Selling Sunset. I never got into that. That just wasn't my vibe. But something about Ryan Serhant and his energy and the way he talks about sales, I think it can be applied to any industry, not just real estate. And so I was watching that and I was like, that's really incredible. And so I see these guys making just crazy money. Now, I also see the inverse of some individuals on the show who are not making that much money. So I understand it's total and like night and day, depending on exactly who you are, what your sector is, how well connected you are. And you mentioned to me, did you work for Serhant or did you?
I did, yeah.
You did, okay.
Yeah. So back in the day, it's funny. Ryan actually made no money his first couple of years. He didn't really make sales.
No way.
And then he got on the show and it blew up for him. So by the show, I mean $1 Million Listing New York. That was the first show.
That was the first show.
Yeah. So I hooked up with Ryan. A few years after that, he was already a well-known name. I had done a few sales. I actually approached him and wanted him to hire me. I followed up with him. He didn't hire me, but I ended up going to work for the same company. And I even asked him, I said, is it okay? Or would you be cool with that? I know you didn't hire me, but I want to work at Nest Seekers. Is that okay? And he said, yeah, that's fine, man. So I ended up working there. And after a while, he reached out to me. He's like, hey, I want you on the team.
Nice.
So, and the first thing I saw when I got in his office, I'm like, wow, what does this guy do differently than everyone else does? He's really not that salesy at all. He's not salesy or pushy or anything like that. People really come to him because he puts himself out there. So I remember I was in the office one time. It was like 8:00 at night or 7 or 8, something like that. No one's there except for me. This is when we had landlines. So this was a few years ago. The office has a landline. Someone calls. I pick it up because I'm the only one there, right? It's my lead.
Sure.
I'm taking that. And these people wanted to sell their condo in Manhattan, sell a condo in New Jersey, and buy a townhouse on the Upper East Side. So that's 3 deals, all big money deals. That's like 10 million worth of sales. And they just called him. And I saw Ryan the next day. I told him all this. And I asked, do people just call you? And he just looks at me like, all day, bro.
Wow.
All day. So the big thing for him is he's not really grinding cold calls or anything like that. He's just putting himself out there. And yeah, he was on TV, so that's a big help. But now he doesn't slack off and rely on that. He's making YouTube content. He's always putting himself out there. So he works for it.
Yeah.
But he just puts himself out there and people call him.
Knowing that he kind of does this inbound funnel of all of these people coming to him through TV networks, through social media. how has that impacted you and your sales career in real estate, specifically when it comes to content?
So when I came back to Arizona, I definitely, you're starting over. The clients don't come with you. So definitely made an effort to put myself out there on Instagram. I'm also on Twitter, X. I've been using Threads. I don't know if people use Threads, but I'm posting on Threads, so follow me. So it's definitely something that I'm putting myself out there. I want that for my career. I want people to come to me. I don't want to be constantly, okay, I close a deal, now I have to cold call somebody else, right? That's always, I feel like if you live like that, it's not a great career. You want to get to the point where people know you as the real estate guy. So that's my ultimate goal.
Sure. And how much of the business today is you actually cold calling people?
So there's definitely some cold calling and cold contacts, but once people know you, it becomes more of a warm call.
Sure.
Real estate is such a long sales cycle. You might talk to somebody, they're not going to move tomorrow, and they might move 5 years from now.
No way.
So it's a constant follow up, constant talk to them, adding value, just providing value for people. One thing that I do, I live in a condo, so I go to all the HOA meetings and I send out a blast to all the residents who haven't unsubscribed. Some have unsubscribed, but most people seem to appreciate what I do. And I'll just say, hey, here's what's happening at our condo.
Sure.
And I give them the rundown and just stuff like that, just adding value, really pushing yourself out there. And hopefully one day they come to me.
That's right. It's so hyper competitive, right? This real estate hustle. There's so many other real estate agents out there, and how do you stay top of mind? Stuff like that. It's that years and years and years of follow up. And this is me just being curious. Have you ever thought about, gosh, like this is so not like it could be somewhat inconsistent, right? You make a big sale, like maybe I don't have a sale for a minute. Has it ever crossed your mind to get like a side job or a side business, anything like that, to supplement and get some consistent income? Or are you like, hey, I'm really just all in on my real estate business?
So when I was new, I was thinking maybe I'll get a job as a bartender on the weekends or something. And the sales manager that I had at the time talked me out of it. He said, don't do that. Like, you can do this. And sure enough, I ended up closing a pretty big deal not long after that. So there's some patience involved, and you definitely have to sacrifice at certain points. And I'm willing to do the sacrifices. Like when I came back here, I said, I'm going to do real estate. I said, okay, if you have to make sacrifices, you have to. So I'm not about the side gig. I mean, eventually you want to buy your own properties, right?
Yes.
So brokerage is a mean to an end for a lot of people. I actually enjoy the brokerage. So, but you also want to get a property, get some tenants in there. You'll have rental income, stuff like that.
Got it. Okay. So that sounds like it's more the eventual goal is to be almost like have multiple properties, that passive income coming in, having your own property management group that manages those. Is that correct?
So I don't know if I would get into property management myself.
Yeah.
But to have a property, and that's your rainy day property, and you'll have rental income, it's always good to have.
Okay.
Especially when you do this every day, you get an edge because you see the deals that happen. So you can see, oh, that's a good deal. Maybe I'll buy that for myself.
Yeah. What does your typical day look like as a real estate agent?
Oh, every day is different.
Yeah. Like, tell me, like, just give a typical, like, you said every day is different, right? I guess I think I'd love to learn, what does that look like? Right? Is it you're waking up, maybe I want to do 100, 10, 15 cold calls and send some emails and go to then do an open house, or maybe I want to just do the whole day of shooting content. Like, is that kind of where I'm getting at? Like, is that how various the days can look?
Yeah, so it's very different, and I'm very spontaneous, especially with content. Like, I feel like content is best when it's spontaneous. So I try not to force the content. I try and just, if something comes up naturally, I'm like, oh, I should make content about that, and then I do it. So the content is more spontaneous. The calls and the emails, you do have to be consistent with that. Like, I need to go and update a lot of my contact lists. So I have to block out, hey, here's a couple hours where I'm just going to sit down, do the boring work of, hey, looking everybody up, making sure I have the right info for everybody. So you do have to schedule that stuff.
Sure. Okay. Tell me about the market right now in Arizona from your perspective, because I could have asked this to any real estate agent. I'd probably get a million different answers, but just from the Nick El-Tawil perspective of like, Tell me about the market right now.
The market right now is it's really great for both buyers and sellers. Sellers prices are at an all-time high. So we are actually higher than the peak of 2022 in most suburbs. Some places like on the outskirts, like Queen Creek, Buckeye, they're a little lower because those are just on the outskirts. But the central locations, prices are at an all-time high. Now for buyers, it's tough because mortgage rates are where they are. So if you're a buyer who's relying on financing, it's very tough when your mortgage would be 50% more than what you're paying in rent. So it's tough for people to stomach that, but there are some negotiable deals right now. Like,
Sure.
just because mortgage rates are high and prices are high, a lot of the stuff that doesn't sell right away, it sits and then you have some room to negotiate. So I think if a buyer can get in the game, it's a good time. For sellers, it's a great time.
Okay. This is me just being, thank you for that answer, by the way. And this is me being curious about Arizona specifically. What trends are you seeing for where people are moving from, intrastate moving? So they live in Arizona, they're looking to move somewhere else in Arizona. Where are people most moving from that you've seen in Arizona, and then where are they moving to?
Oh, North Scottsdale right now. Farther north in Scottsdale. So there's so much development up there and all those condos, apartments that are getting built up there. Kierland Commons is huge. So North Scottsdale is definitely where people want to be. And I think if people have the ability to move to North Scottsdale, that's where they're going.
Okay. Do you deal with anything like Northern Arizona, any of those things like Prescott Valley, anything like that? Or are you mostly just the Phoenix Valley metro?
I'm in the Phoenix Valley. I do like Prescott.
Me too.
Sedona.
Yeah.
So I actually was meeting with a guy earlier today who just bought a hotel in Camp Verde, not Sedona, it's Camp Verde.
Beautiful area. And he's a business owner. He's the sole owner of this hotel. So I'm excited for him. That's great, man. I've always thought about just owning a place up in Sedona or Flagstaff. It's freaking expensive though.
It's not cheap anymore.
It
used to be.
It's not cheap, man. So yeah, I see all that stuff and I'm just like, wow. And I know, what's it called? Prescott's blowing up. Payson's blowing up.
Payson has some amazing luxury homes.
It does.
Like it blew my mind when I saw the prices on some of the homes out there.
Yeah, and I'm wondering, like, what do all these people do for work, right? How are the homes so high priced? And I'm like, where is the jobs around this area? They must be all remote people just making the earnings and just that's their house, or maybe they're retired. I don't know. So
it's funny because I grew up out in Gilbert, like way out in Gilbert.
Really?
So my dad, when I was growing up, he would drive from Gilbert to downtown Phoenix every single day. It was like an hour-long commute. This is when the 202 was new. So it was, he was doing that drive every single day. And now he still works. He's almost 60, but he still works. And he doesn't go to the office ever. He just stays at his house in Gilbert. He has a home office. He doesn't go. So remote work has changed a lot for people.
Yeah, sure. Okay. And then how do you, like in terms of Arizona, any new developments that you feel like are really exciting that are happening that you feel like will draw people to certain areas?
Oh, North Scottsdale once again.
North Scottsdale once again. Yeah. Okay. So North Scottsdale is pretty darn pricey though, correct? Yeah.
There are definitely some more affordable options, particularly Central Phoenix, which I love Central Phoenix. And right along Central Ave, there's a few buildings there that are just screaming deals, really, for anybody who is open to apartment condo living. And I feel like that's underexplored.
The condo type situations in the Central Phoenix area.
Yeah,
I don't mind condos, man, or apartments. Because I was telling you, I live in Paradise Valley, and we have, there's a lot of things you have to deal with when it comes to owning. I'm not actually the owner of the house. I live in the casita. But yeah, I mean, still, you're on a mountain, and with living on a mountain comes with wildlife, pest control, lawn care. There's a lot of things that, the casita I'm at, they're redoing the pool. So it's like there's a lot of things that go into home ownership, like when it's just your home, that make it different than a condo association or something along those lines, where everything's just done for you. You have an HOA, they take care of it, whatever. So,
and I think North Scottsdale and Phoenix get more wildlife than like Chandler, Gilbert, those suburbs.
For sure.
If you go farther south, you get a lot less of that.
Yeah, 100. I think it's also a little like slightly hotter in like Gilbert Chandler than it is in North Scottsdale. Like not by much, but I think that because you're going up in elevation, I felt that too. Like sometimes I'm in like Gilbert Chandler, I'm like, dang, it feels a little hotter than like I was at in North Scottsdale. I don't know why, but probably a couple degrees difference, not nothing major, but cool, man. And then how about out of state? Are people still, because there's this huge boom of like me, right? I'm like,
you coming back from New York.
You're coming back from New York. I'm coming back from, moved here from Chicago. And like, it's just so interesting. It's like the pandemic moved everyone to different places, whether they were wanting to or family situation or whatever, but a lot of people got moved all over the country and they kind of went to that Sun Belt, right? Anything under that Sun Belt, people were just flocking to. Arizona, Texas, Florida, Georgia, Tennessee, right? All of these areas really got blown up. And then are you still seeing that out of state migration at those levels, or tell me about that?
So not nearly at the levels as it was, back in the pandemic, but people are always moving here from Canada, from the Midwest, even from Northern California. The interesting thing is I don't see that many people from LA that move to Arizona. And I think that's because LA is kind of the Hollywood scene, like actors, people go there because they want to be part of that scene. So Scottsdale doesn't really compare with that. But like tech workers, if they can work remotely from San Francisco to Arizona, they do that all day. We see that all the time.
Yeah, it's different vibe, probably almost half the cost. That's the one thing a lot of people from California come out here and they see it and they're like, wow, everything's so cheap. And I'm like, well, I don't know about cheap, but it's
it used to be cheap.
Yeah, it's different perspective. Wow, okay, man. Well, that's good to know. Well, in terms of yourself and just also like what you specialize in, could you talk about that to the audience?
So being that I came from New York, right, and it was almost all apartments out there. I sold a couple houses when I was in New York, right? Nothing crazy, but it was mostly apartments, condos. So I've specialized in that since I've been out here, and I've sold a few houses since I've been out here too. And that will be more of my business going forward. But for now, I'm the condo guy. So Optimas, that stuff in Central Phoenix, North Scottsdale, that's what I'm going for. That's what I'm focusing on right now. And it's a unique niche because a lot of people out here, they mostly sell houses because that's what most people live in, right? But with condos, I mean, it's a different game. So when you're running comps and stuff, it's just different. You have to look at it differently, and there's just certain things that you need to know that I think a lot of real estate agents don't. So I think it's a good niche to carve for myself.
Nice. And how do you see the condo market shaping out over the next couple of years? Because this has definitely been more of a challenging, it sounds like from you and a lot of our real estate agents, challenging maybe last 18 months, 12, 18 months. How do you see the next couple of years shaping out for just real estate in general?
So it just depends on interest rates, right? So interest rates will drive a lot of the market. Now, the 10 million in up sales in Phoenix, which is most of Paradise Valley and like Central Phoenix and North Scottsdale, that's actually doing better than it was a few years ago. So the really, really top of the market and also the really, really bottom of the market are stronger than ever. And everything in between is kind of crunched because that's where interest rates affect it the most. So, if we get some rate cuts, that will mean more deals. But at the end of the day, it's great for people who own real estate, regardless of the rates.
Regardless.
It's tough for the brokers right now because there just aren't that many deals. And, I have a bunch of loan officer friends, of course, and it's slower for them right now than it was in 2008, 2009, 2010. So this is the toughest market for them.
And it's just about sticking it out, right? It's like so many people I know that were in real estate 2 years ago when the pandemic real estate boom happened are out of it. They don't post anymore. They're not a real estate agent. I don't even know what they do, right? And so how do you keep that motivation to be like, I'm going to keep going?
Well, it's just all that I've ever done. So I'm kind of married to it at this point.
You're married to the game.
I'm married to the game. Also, my great grandpa built homes around Scottsdale, so it's kind of in my blood.
Yeah.
I have family who develops homes in Sacramento, so I know this is what I do.
Yep.
I know this is what I'm meant for, so I'm excited to do it.
Yeah. It's the fourth generation Arizona. That's wild, man. There's not many of you out here. Like you'd probably be the first person I've met who said that. So that's pretty incredible. Do you have a favorite spot in Arizona that you usually go to?
Ooh, I mean, everything's turned over so much since I grew up here and since I came back. So it's almost like a tale of two Arizonas. When I was growing up, I remember we used to call Scottsdale Snobsdale.
Yeah.
There was a meme before memes were a thing, the $30,000 millionaire. It was like a guy in Scottsdale could make $30,000 a year, but live like a millionaire, drive a BMW, put everything on credit cards, and he'd had a great life. And now it's like, you got to be a multimillionaire to live like a millionaire in Scottsdale. So
100%, man. It's that I feel like when you said that, a lot of people in the audience will like it because I've done a couple Arizona specific clips on Scottsdale, and everyone's like, "Oh, it's Snobsdale. You know, Scottsdale is the worst." And people hate on Arizona a lot, man, especially from California.
yeah,
I get it. California has perfect weather, so I mean, it's kind of hard to beat a Southern California climate.
I mean, Scottsdale weather for 6 months of the year is arguably better than California. It's just the other 6 months.
It's the other 6 months where we're like, we understand.
We miss California weather.
Yeah, I try to get out there as much as I can. It's like the one benefit of living here is that
That's so close.
you know, you got your 5-hour drive from San Diego, your 2-hour drive from Flagstaff, which feels like you're not in the same state. Same thing with Prescott, Payson. I haven't really explored too much in like the Tucson, Southern Arizona area. Have you been down there much?
I lived in Tucson for a little bit when I was a little kid, and it's a real college town vibes. So everything is very university centric down there. I think most people would be better off in Phoenix, but it's just a different vibe. Tucson's great.
Yeah, most people are probably better off in Phoenix. Yeah, I mean, as I mentioned earlier before we jumped on, my family loves Phoenix. They love visiting Scottsdale, renting an Airbnb, chilling at the pool, grilling. Like, to them, it's a really good life. And I think that's what probably, if I was an out-of-state buyer, as you said, Canadians, that blows my mind. That they
love it here. They love it.
They snowbird, right?
Well, some of them, some moved down here permanently. I actually sold a house to a guy just last year, moved from Canada, Alberta, Canada.
And he just said, "Hey, I'm tired of the winters. I like Arizona."
He likes Arizona.
That's wild, man. Yeah, well, man, I could probably just like ask you a bunch of questions about Arizona, but you've done a really great job on just like keying me in on the market. And you mentioned there's some good deals for the buyer. And if you're a seller, you're going to sell at a great price because it's typically like an all-time high. And so you probably make a good ROI on your initial investment because the property values here are just through the roof from the last 4 or 5 years. You also mentioned that you specialize in condos. It's totally different than regular homes. You see the Arizona market, being relatively strong because you have a lot of out-of-state buyers. Anything else that you feel like, maybe the audience, maybe there are some real estate professionals out there who are listening in and they just want to learn from someone like yourself who's not just a pandemic real estate agent. You've been doing this for a while. What advice would you give them to this? Just focus on right now in this season. You mentioned this is your thing, right? You're married to the game. But for these people who right now are just like, man, what do I do? Like, what would you say to them?
You just got to tough it out. There's a guy he's a legend in the real estate world. His name's Bob Knackel. He's a commercial real estate broker in New York City. Now, he sold his company in 2014, which is the year I first got my license. He made $100 million or something off the sale. Him and his partner got like $100 million each. He always talks about, the first 10 years of his career, he was just living on credit cards. From 1984 to 1994, his net worth was between $0 and negative 200,000, and he would just run it up every time he closed a deal. He'd just keep living on credit cards, keep going. So it's not for the faint of heart. You might have to make some sacrifices and you might have to take some risks, but if you stick with it, you see all those people drop out in the pandemic. So
yeah, and then I watch freaking Sell in Manhattan, and I see these guys in the nightclub. Literally, he's like, yeah, is the 2 million property good with you? The buyer says, sure. And then they list and it says XYZ's commission, $70,000. And you're just like, $70,000. You'd be really hard pressed to do that in software sales. Like, that's
It's not 70,000 in his pocket.
Right.
It's definitely exaggerated for TV.
Oh, it is.
If you figure a guy who works for Ryan, he's probably got, if he's a top producer, Serhant will probably make 30% of that. And then he's got to pay taxes. So he's New York taxes, by the way. So it's like in his pocket is probably more like 20, 30 out of that 70. Yeah.
Yeah. Good call out. Good call out.
So when you guys see that stuff, we're not making that much money, trust me. Now, in Arizona, the splits are a little better. So like a brokerage here might only take 15, whereas in New York, they took 30. So when I came back to Arizona, I was like, oh, that's my split? Hell yeah, I'll take that.
Last thing. I thought I saw something online about how there's something switching right now in Arizona when it comes to real estate fees. Is that true? Am I on the money at all?
Yeah, so there was a lawsuit against the National Association of Realtors. It had been going for years. I had been following it since the beginning. It's taken effect August 1st. So they settled. They said, hey, we'll change our rules, whatever. So what's changing is buyers and brokers will now enter into contracts with each other. So before, if you reached out about a property, let's say on Zillow actually sold your information to a buyer's agent. So if you reach out on Zillow, you're not talking to the listing agent. You're talking to whoever paid Zillow the most money. Mm-hmm. And, it was fine for them to do that because there were no contracts. So you just go and see the home with this person. I think a lot of people got confused by that. And there was a time where I actually paid Zillow for these leads. So I've been on both sides of it. And people got confused. Like, oh, you're not the listing agent. No, I'm representing you. And I think that was not great for buyers, right? So now we have a system where buyers and brokers need a contract or they can't show homes. So if you contact that guy on Zillow and he's a buyer's agent, oh, hold on, I need you to sign this contract. I think buyers are going to be a little hesitant. Like, oh, no, wait, you're not the listing agent. You're a buyer's agent. Okay, maybe I want to interview some buyer's agents before I sign with you. So I think it's going to be good for buyers. It'll be good for agents because now we can't get cut out of deals. I've had a couple deals this year where, I showed them homes, I worked for them, worked hard, and they just ended up buying with someone else. And there's no contract, so there's nothing I can do. So it'll be good for both of us. I actually think it'll be worse for like Zillow, people that sell leads online. Not that Zillow is going to go away. Zillow's a massive company. They're going to do just fine. But I think it'll be more of an adjustment for them than it will be for agents and buyers.
Good call. I just saw that and I didn't really know. Yeah, I mean, it was funny because Redfin was trying, I think, at one point replace real estate agents. It seemed like 'cause they were just buying homes with like a Redfin's estimate, and they were doing they were paying way too much for the house, and they're under on certain markets, and they didn't properly. It's just funny how it's like they tried to do the same thing about car salesmen, like, oh, we're just going to automate cars with Carvana. Failed miserably. Carvana is a tanking company. It sucks because
it's an Arizona company.
It sucks because they're in Arizona, but they're doing awful. I know because I was invested in their stock for a while, and I'm just like, what in the world? But and I actually tried to order a car from them, and that was the worst experience I've ever had. They lied that they had my car. So I'd call an agent, and they'd say, oh, yeah, it's in Oklahoma. Oh, yeah, it's in Wyoming. I'm like, wait a minute. I live in Arizona. How is it up there? And I called like the 4th or 5th agent. This was like 5 or 6 weeks after I already put the full down payment down for the car. And then the one agent says, dude, I'm just going to be real with you. We don't even have the car. And I was like, yeah, I can see the writing on the wall of how this company's not going to do well. And obviously I got my money back, but it was just a huge headache. And then I saw their just stock tank. But I went to a car dealership, and a lot of the guys were kind of sleazy. But you meet a guy who's legitimate, or a guy or girl who's legitimate, and they make the buying process that much easier. I think real estate's the same. I don't really feel like myself as a buyer as much as I could do, like buy owner or buy seller, work directly. That's not something I don't really want to go down for the biggest financial decision of my life. A car is the second biggest financial decision typically of someone's life. And so worked with a good salesman, sold me the car, very quick and easy. The cool thing is, you said it, he's not very salesy. He said, hey, here's the keys, by the way, like, do you want a 24-hour test drive? I said, you're the first guy that's ever offered that. Of course I would love to do that. And probably reverse psychology, right? He knows, oh, if he takes this thing home, he's not going to want to give it back.
Right.
Right. And so I think just finding a real estate agent, who, as you said, right, it works with you, doesn't pressure you. You said you could even be with someone for 5 years. I think a lot of real estate agents probably need to hear that, where even for me, I've had a lot of real estate agents approach me of like, let's get you, I know you're in software sales, you're probably doing well, we got to get you in a house. We got to get you in a house right now. I'm like, dude, you're kind of making me feel a little pressured here.
Mm-hmm.
But then I'm working with a guy right now who's my friend in Missouri, and he understands it's gonna be a longer process, but he knows. I said, when I do buy in Missouri, God willing, it's gonna be with you. And he's like, cool. So that's that.
It's just follow up at the end of the day. Follow up, keeping in touch with people, staying top of mind, and adding value. If you help them and make their lives easier, they'll remember that.
Absolutely. Well, Nick, I really appreciate you on the Solid SaaS podcast. Where can our audience find you?
Find me on Instagram at Tawillionaire, TAWILLIONAIRE.
Anything else?
I think you covered it, man. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. All right, guys, the Solid SaaS podcast, as always, make sure you guys follow Nick. Let him know you found him on the Solid SaaS podcast. And I really just appreciate the listenership. We are moving with the episodes. This will probably, by the time Nick and I film this in late July, so this will probably release in a couple months. So by the time you guys see this, hopefully you guys are already crushing Q4 or late Q3. And if you have time, leave us a 5-star review on the podcast. It would mean a lot to me and our team here. So thank you so much. And until next time.
Awesome. Great job.
Beautiful.
Cool, bro. Nice work.
Thank you.
Nice work.